Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I hope you enjoy this manga recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. The story begins by introducing the Rune Candle family, a swordsman clan that rules over half the world. Members of this clan are exceptional talents, and in a world engulfed in this ideology, survival of the fittest. Only the strong survive. Our protagonist is Jin Runecandle. As a baby, he selected a sword called the Berisara in his selection ritual, which intrigued the mysterious man from behind him. Jin always thought that his life would be full of success, but life likes to play cruel tricks, and Jin was talentless with the sword and named the weakest member of the Runecandle family. Present day, we see Jin practicing in the courtyard when two of his brothers approach. They ask why he's even training with a wooden sword and not his Berisara, and begin mocking our protagonist. Jin ignores the remarks and continues his training, but the brothers demand an answer, and one strikes Jin to the floor. They ask him again why he is training when it's pointless for him since he's garbage with a sword. Another brother steps on his hand, and the other boy grabs the book that Jin was using to train. This book is the basic method of swordsmanship. They really wonder if Jin really thinks that he can get somewhere studying this garbage. They begin breaking the wooden sword and book despite Jin's cries, and then they snap, and they mock him for even training when he will always be helpless. Jin is grabbed by the head and asked if he learned those manners from his nanny. Jin continues to struggle, but the boys think it's time to teach him a real lesson. Growing up, it seems that he always had to deal with this kind of harassment from his family, and having almost zero talent with the sword, he always thought if he worked hard enough, maybe his fate would change. Maybe he would have had his family's acknowledgement. One day, he strived to be a proud member of the Rune Candles. Later that evening, Jin was expelled from the family, and only because of his hard work, the family won't have him killed. And I thought my parents were mean, what the hell? At the age of 23, Jin was left to fend for himself, with no destination. But he did end up finding a new master, and this is where he learned that he did after all have talent, a talent for magic. You see, magic was forbidden in the Swordsman clan, but in 3 years, Jin honed his abilities and learned how to better control his mana. As he's studying, he's engulfed by shadows, and he's trying to understand what's going on. But a figure introduces itself as Solderit, the master of shadows. Jin Runecandle, as the god of shadows, allow me to propose a contract. With this contract, not only will you be able to use spiritual powers, but also nullify all curses. And this mysterious entity also noticed that Jin has been cursed since a very young age. Due to a small curse that I see upon you, you're unable to draw your full potential. This revelation shocks Jin. It's a curse called Bladed Illusion. It represses one's talent for the sword. No wonder Jin's life has been such a burden, especially coming from the Runecandle family. Jin finally understands why his life has been so miserable. This must be why the Lord of Shadows was drawn to him. From this moment onward, no curse can harm him, and the only thing left for him to do is to become the world's greatest magical swordsman. The Lord of Shadows smiles and will be watching with pleasure, and Jin exits the mysterious shadowy cocoon, and he absorbs all the information that he's just received and gets a spark of determination. He grips his sword and goes outside to test his new skills, and it's just as Solderit said. When Jin grabbed his sword, it was a brand new feeling. It felt like an extension of his arm. When he swings his sword, he also adds magic to it, making him much stronger than before. Now, the weakest man from Runecandle is no more, and all of his hard work and torture will be coming to light. I don't know if his joy is gonna last too long, because overlooking our protagonist is 3 knights, which I assume are mercenaries watching him train from the hill above. Some time passes and we see a large explosion occur, and our protagonist is stuck under some rubble, calling out to anyone, "Solderit, are you there?" Jin questions why his body feels so heavy, but someone approaches. Who's there, Jin wonders. Is this really the end of his life? Dying in his sleep before he can even accomplish anything? Why was he even given a second chance? Jin wakes up with some smaller looking arms and looks around to see members of his clan. He was so sure that he just died, but now he's being greeted by his old nanny, Gilly. He's looking through the field of swords and sees the one he picked, Berisara. Ah, this must be the selection ritual. Jin has returned to the past as a 1-year-old baby. In his past life, he grabbed this sword by accident, and the crowd is excited to see what the new young lord would grab. But this time, Jin isn't picking it out of pure luck. He's picking it because he wants to. A similar response is felt throughout the crowd. They order to move the child to Storm Castle, and 6 years later, we see Jin struggling to reach some books. He's been in this castle for 6 years, and following what happened in his past life, he's gonna be here until he's 10. It gets boring, but our hero can't waste any time. All of a sudden, a dead bird is thrown into the room. Only one person comes to mind, his 2 bully brothers. These bozos look towards Jin, and it seems their torment began at a young age. The first brother, Daytona Rune Candle, is 9 years old and curses that the maid found the bird before him. He's accompanied by his twin brother, Heiton. They wanted to use this as a gift to Jin, but this seems like a pretty cruel joke for some 9-year-olds. Later in life, these 2 boys end up having a reputation as murderers after becoming flag bearers. They killed an innocent bird just to mess with Jin. They tell Jin not to cry, the bird was ugly anyways. They continue on saying that who the hell does Jin think he is anyways? Just because he chose the sword of patriarchy doesn't mean he's too good to talk to us twins, right? Jin mutters some words under his breath, and Heitona tells him that he can't hear him as he draws back a punch. But this time, Jin isn't a pushover. He grabs Heitona's hand before he can do anything and tells him to shut the hell up and hits him with an uppercut to the jaw. The boy is furious, but Jin keeps battering him. This is for all the stress and torture that he had to deal with for years. He tells the boys that it will be better for them not to step into Jin's sight. An older man comes into the room and asks what happened. Jin says he doesn't know. He walked in and it seems the boys are fighting and both collapsed. The man sees through this, however, and thinks that it's expected from the youngest Rune Candle. He's brutal indeed. He grabs the boys to take them to the doctor, but Jin tells the man, whose name is Khan, that they have somewhere else to be. Jin signals him to follow. They place the 2 boys next to a tree outside in the rain. Jin buries the dead bird and leaves the 2 boys by its side. Khan wonders why Jin is doing this. The rain won't let up, and the storm will only get stronger. Jin tells the man that his 2 brothers need to learn the consequences of their actions. Khan grits his teeth but respects the wishes of the young master. Khan wonders what kind of energy he's feeling from Jin. It wasn't aura, perhaps it was magic? If that's the case, this wasn't a simple fight between brothers. He needs to report this to the patriarch right away. He tells one of the attendants to bring him a horse. Jin expected this, however, as he watches Khan from an upstairs window. Khan is the kid's guardian knight, but also serves as a watchdog for the family. Jin's power looks like mana to someone like Khan, so there's no way he would keep quiet about this. The darkness around Jin's hand is spiritual power, and the proof of the contract between Jin and Soldaret. But thanks to this, he knows that even in this life, his contract is still valid. In addition, he still has immunity to curses, which makes him even more powerful this time around. Now, the weakling of Rune Candle is no more. His life is going to be very different than it was before. The only thing left to do is meet his father. The scene shifts to Khan delivering this message to the patriarch. He tells Khan to assemble the knights. He is going to meet the youngest. They assemble the 7 knights of Rune Candle and around 200 knights under them for the journey. Is this not a little excessive for meeting a child? I mean, I don't know. We see a shot of all these different characters, which I'm excited to learn about, led by an absolutely savage looking patriarch with long white hair and a menacing gaze. One of the knights asks her brother, Dippus, if he knows why they were summoned. She asked Luna as well, but she didn't seem to know anything. This is Mary Rune Candle. She stretches her arms and sighs. Right before this, she was dealing with some annoying magicians. Dippus tries to understand the situation and concludes that maybe they're going to see the youngest brother, Jin. It clicks with Mary too, since it's the same brother that chose the patriarch's sword in the selection ritual. But is it really necessary, she wonders? It's hard to tell what their father is thinking. Luna approaches and calls for the 2. Back at Storm Castle, Jin is being prepared by Gilly for his master's arrival. Jin thinks that Khan's personality wouldn't let him assume that he used magic right away. Rather, he just told the patriarch of what he saw. The youngest son is using a strange power, and now the father is coming to see it for himself, and also to see if Jin will be the future of the clan. The patriarch arrives and the soldiers bow. He calls for the Tone-Up twins, and he sits on the throne and asks them if they had a fight with Jin. What were your mistakes in this quarrel? The 2 boys plead that they did nothing wrong and Jin hit them first, with some kind of weird ability. It wasn't aura, so maybe it was magic. The 2 boys try to use this lie to their advantage since magic is taboo. Mary agrees that if Jin did use magic, then they need to interrogate him. But the father asks the group to be quiet. He tells the boys to engrave this into their hearts. They will never survive in Rune Candle like that. Now, the father brings Jin in as he passes the boys who have a stressed expression. Jin's father is Siren Rune Candle, and he is the strongest yet coldest man that he has ever known. The strongest swordsman of this era, a man who's reached the level of demigod, the Genesis Knight. He was once a man, but ever since he reached this level, it's almost like he lost all of his emotions tying him to his humanity, and has become obsessed with the clan's prosperity. In his past life, someone like Jin, who didn't have any skills, was worthless in his eyes. However, this time is different. Jin enters the room and bows towards his father, and Siren asks why he addressed him as patriarch and not as father. Jin says that it's only right to call him that since he brought all of his troops here to see him. Luna approves of this answer, but Siren tells Jin that he came here for several reasons and to address him as father. He asks Jin what mistake his brothers made in their fight, and Jin answers, revenge. In this family, when someone is punished, they get the same crime that they committed. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Siren asks for everyone to leave the room except Jin. All of the attendants wonder if this means that Jin has passed the test. A one-on-one with the father, huh? He sent everyone away because the Tono brothers told him that Jin has a special power, and as he knows, magic is strictly forbidden, because one who learns magic can never reach their true potential in swordsmanship. What is the power you hold, Jin? If it is magic, you won't get away with it. Jin thinks to himself that now his father knows of his secret powers, and it's gonna be hard to get away from this subject. He doesn't tell him about Solderit, but rather pretends he also doesn't know what it is. But it's neither magic nor aura, and Jin wonders what to call it himself and ignites a dark ball of fire in his hand and asks the patriarch to name it himself. Siren is shocked. This is the power of the first patriarch. Siren knows that this is spiritual power. He thinks that the spirit of Barasada lives inside of Jin, so maybe he is fit to be the future patriarch. Jin asks his father what to name it, but Siren responds saying that this is the power of Solderit, the god of shadows. Jin pretends not to know who that is, and Siren continues with his explanation. Solderit made a contract with the first patriarch, Sir Temar, and is a god who has been with the rune candles since the birth of the house. But after Sir Tamar's passing, Solderit vanished and hasn't reappeared since. Siren didn't know the reason, but Solderit has returned inside of Jin. Jin asks his father if Solderit is stronger than he is. He thinks on it for a moment, and he's never fought a god before, so he doesn't know. Jin smirks and thinks just because Siren has never fought a god, he doesn't know if he can take one. Definitely a response from the world's strongest swordsman. Siren tells his son that it was a good question and pats him over the head. His question will be another great topic for him. Siren is happy he came to visit Jin today. He asks him how he plans to use his newfound power, and Jin responds saying he will use it for the clan. Siren just laughs. What an amazing lie. You beat your brothers and left them in a storm, yet you say you want to use this power for the clan. Answer honestly. Jin yields and tells him that he wants to use his power for himself. Siren appreciates the honesty and likes the answer. From now on, he will be watching him. As Siren leaves, Jin's knees shake after standing in front of this beast of a man, but he smiles. He's finally received his father's blessing. All he hoped was for to be able to use his powers, but now even his father has high hopes for his improvement. Not even Jin could have expected it to go that well. He clenches his fist and things are finally changing for the better. Outside the castle, before the troops leave, Mary hands her little brother Jin a gift. She hands it to Gilly and tells him to eat it well, and tells the boy to get strong fast. Jin wonders why Mary is interested in him as well. He opens the package and is surprised to see a phoenix heart. Giving this to a 7-year-old is unheard of. Sister Mary is insane. She has the nickname Stormwind Mary, but also has another secret name, the Southern Region's Madwoman. He now understands why a battle-hungry maniac would give him something like this. She is basically saying to grow up and fight me. If this heart is eaten at a young age, one can receive resistance to fire and an increased growth rate. And now Jin thinks about it. A phoenix heart was also needed for 6-star magicians to safely summon a phoenix. Maybe in this life, he'll be able to summon one. Gilly approaches the young master and hands him a bowl of soup, but before he goes to eat, he's interrupted by the two twins from before and asks them what they want and to stop staring at his food. They say that he looks pretty lonely eating by himself, and Gilly is holding a huge pot. Jin sees through the boys and asks them if they want to eat. They both nod, and Jin tells them that he'll let them eat if they do him one small favor. We now see the two digging in a cave, wondering why the hell Jin sent them down here. Nothing's here. The soup was pretty good, so maybe it'll be worth it. They think if anyone gets in trouble for this, it's gonna be Jin. But now, the two boys fear the youngest. Under the rumble, we see a testing chamber, and a piece of rock hits a part of this futuristic-looking machine. Inside the circular tank is a man suspended with the same dark shadows that are swirling around Jin. The two boys return to the room in hopes to eat some soup. They look incredibly tired from their endeavor, and Jin welcomes them back and tells them that they got back faster than he expected. He tells the boys that he left them their food over there, But, to the twins' surprise, Jin only left them 2 spoonfuls. That's messed up, man, but it's also pretty funny. He still didn't forgive them for what they did to him in his past life, and they're in despair and ask Jin what kind of joke this is. Jin says that they only asked him to share, they never said how much they wanted. But he shared just as he promised. The scene shifts and we see Jin venturing out in the rain. He goes to check on the boys' jobs, not trusting if they did exactly what he wanted, but it turns out they did just perfectly. He pats the rock that's blocking his way and thinks that a 1-star spell should be enough. It's time for Jin to let out some stress, because he's building up mana all this time and had nothing to use it on. He places both hands on the rock and bursts out green lights erupting from a magical circle. He is pleased and finds behind the rock is the Rune Candle's secret library. This was a place he couldn't come to in his previous life, and it feels strange to even stand here. Jin remembers his big brother saying that there is a special activation code. A child of Rune Candle has come to console Murakami. The door opens and Jin enters. This place holds a large collection of secret tomes that the Rune Candle clan has collected over the last 1,000 years. Entry is only permitted to flag bearers of Rune Candle. In his past life, his big brother only told him this phrase because he never thought that Jin would ever be able to enter, but now it's proving quite useful. He enters the room and sees the man in the test tube from the end of the previous chapter. Who is this, he thinks. This guy has scales. Is he even human? Jin reaches towards the glass and he wonders what he's doing here, but then remembers the activation phrase. A child of Rune Candle has come to console Murakami. Is this the black dragon Murakami? Jin has heard that Murakami lost to the first patriarch and fell into a coma. To think that the legend is actually real. But now is not the time to sightsee. He needs to find those secret tomes. He goes into the next room and starts searching through the ancient texts, and he finds a tome that he's looking for, from the famous swordmaster Gun clan. He opens the book and thinks that this topic is hard to understand since it's 3-star theory. Jin wants to take it with him, but knows that he's gonna get caught. So he busts out his own book and will do the tedious task of copying everything that he thinks is useful. Jin is studying these books for a couple days, and one evening, back inside the library, someone enters the room behind him, asking who he is. Murakami? What is he doing awake? Jin doesn't remember anything about him waking up. Jin needs to calm down. Murakami is the clan's guardian. If he acts like a child, he might go easy on him. Jin shakily gets some words out and greets the clan's guardian. Guardian? Murakami is enraged at these words. Did Jin just call him a guardian? Why do these Rune Candle bastards call him a guardian? How dare they teach that to people? Murakami is furious, but can't take his anger out on a helpless boy. He sighs in disbelief and kneels down. He only got up because he smelled something nice, for the first time in a while. But it turns out it's just a little brat. He sniffs further and asks Jin why he smells spiritual energy on him. Jin pretends not to know, and Murakami says that even though he's been sleeping for 1,000 years, he will always remember the dense smell of spiritual energy. It's something that only contractors like Tamar would have. Jin finally understands that he's the reason Murakami woke up. However, the dragon doesn't believe that it's coming from the child and searches the room. Jin laughs at the situation and thinks maybe it's time to test his abilities. He calls Murakami over and asks him if he's talking about this, and lights a dark flame around his hands. Murakami is shocked, and Jin says that his father told him that this is the power of Soldaret. Murakami is perplexed and asks if Soldaret is joking. He can't be serious. The promised 1,000-year contractor? Is this Pipsqueak? The two look at each other with an awkward silence, but Murakami tells Jin that he made a promise to Soldaret. He has to help Jin according to that promise. It's a little hard for a kid to understand. Murakami introduces himself formally as Soldaret's proxy and friend, and the last descendant of the first beings of Shadow. Murakami transforms into his true form, and according to a 1,000-year promise, starting today, he will be with him. With me? Jin questions. Murakami asks for the name of Soldaret's contractor, and Jin introduces himself as the 13th child of Rune Candle, and shakes the dragon's claw. Murakami was once a menacing black dragon, but long ago he was defeated by Tamar Rune Candle, and after his castle fell, Murakami went into a deep sleep. But that isn't the truth Jin finds. Those who make contracts with gods do so with guardian dragons. Little was ever known on the guardian dragon of Soul. Does this mean that Murakami will be Jin's guardian dragon as well? He opens the door into the library and hands the dragon some snacks. He wants to extract as much information out of him as he can, and it would be like this for many weeks. The only fact that he comes to find about this dragon is his fetish for strawberry pie. Murakami asks Jin what he does down in the library, and Jin responds telling him that he transcribes all the books that he can't take out. Murakami is impressed with his work ethic. but in the Rune Candle family, it's survival of the fittest, so there's no choice. Jin thinks to himself how he would stack up to Tamar after being compared to him, but Murakami interjects saying that that man wouldn't understand a single line in these books at Jin's age. However, he didn't read books, but still fought well. You may have potential, but you're definitely not as good as Tamar. This is a shocking revelation to our hero. Jin asks if he can ever be as strong as Tamar. Murakami just pats his head saying no, but not to focus on that. Just train hard and the rest will fall into place. And maybe one day, can even surpass him. Jin wonders if that's even possible, but Murakami responds asking if he knows Solderet's nickname, Infinite. Solderet's power has no limit, therefore Jin has no limit, and it's up to him to see the heights of his power that he wants to achieve. And to make him feel better, Murakami will teach him some moves. The first lesson will be Shadow Energy Liberation. This is the first lesson in manipulating shadow energy. This type of power can be very dangerous if not used properly. First, you need to learn to open your mana. Jin pretends to be confused, but in reality he has done this in his past life. Shadow Energy Liberation is about opening and moving mana. One must be able to do these two things well. Jin, you'll need to practice this for about 2 to 3 years before you can get the hang of it. 2 to 3 years? That's way too long for our boy. As he just straight up cheat codes in front of the dragon, Jin presents a Rasengan looking mana circle to the dragon, which makes his hair stand up in sheer shock. How can a 9-year-old boy master mana manipulation in this short amount of time? He wonders when he was able to do that. And Jin said he always felt good with manipulating mana. Murakami thinks that this might really be a genius. Okay, it's time for a real lesson. Shadow Energy Liberation is taking power from all the shadows in Solderet's domain. Since the god is the owner of all the shadows in the world, and since Jin is the god's contractor, that means he can be the owner of all the shadows in the world as well, as they begin to envelop his figure. In this absolute sick panel, the shadows fade, and Murakami asks how it felt. Jin is pleasantly surprised at his newfound power, and the scene shifts to Lady Luna, whooping some dino ass. And one of her soldiers informs her that only a couple areas remain until the completion of their mission. She tells her soldiers to take a break and asks another question. What do 9-year-old boys like? Looks like she's preparing a gift for our young prodigy. We time skip to about 6 months later, and the twins have left the castle, and Gilly and the other attendants are celebrating Jin's 9th birthday. Jin tells her to hand everyone some cake, but all of a sudden, Khan enters the room. He apologizes for the interruption, but behind him is Luna, and she approaches. A quick aside here, this is how you do a strong female character. She looks badass. Luna visits the young lord, which gives him a slight surprise. You see, Luna is the Rune Candle's first flag bearer and 9-star knight, and the firstborn of the 13 siblings, and nicknamed the White Whale. Despite being the strongest, however, she has no interest in taking over the family, and has distanced herself from the power struggle, and usually only moves alone. She has never shown any interest in her family members, and in Jin's past life, it may be more appropriate to call them strangers. Yet now, his sister came to visit him for his 9th birthday. Jin wonders if something happened. Maybe he was found out for sneaking into the library. Jin apologizes, saying that if he had known that she was going to come, he would have prepared. But Luna just smiles and pats him on the head. There's no need to make an announcement. She just wanted to come see her baby brother. She grips Jin and wonders if he's sick, but he responds saying that he's just a little nervous. It is his first time seeing her up close. Luna realizes that Rune Candle's siblings typically put each other in check, so love is usually a disguise for something more devious. She tightens her grip at this backwards family, cursing them for polluting the mind of a child. She apologizes to Jin for not understanding the situation. She takes one knee and holds Jin's hand and asks to speak with him in private. Jin doesn't think the situation is too bad and agrees. The panel shifts to this conversation, and Luna says the reason she came here is because she has something to tell him. When father visited her last, he told her about Jin's behavior, and it garnered the attention of all the siblings. So the moment he leaves Stormcastle, all of their eyes will be on him. She grips Jin's hand and prays that in his sibling rivalry, he won't lose his own happiness, and wants him not to suffer from this family tradition. It clicks inside Jin's mind why Luna is acting this way, both now and in his past life. She never wanted to take part in this. She never warned him before, maybe because he wasn't worth speaking to, or he wasn't seen as competition. He thanks Luna for her words, but Jin has no intention of sitting on the sidelines. He is going to be the next patriarch. Luna assures him that she is serious, and not only because he will compete against her, but Jin stops her and says he knows what it's like. He's already dealt with an assassination attempt. This shocks Luna. She's now enraged and demands to know who would dare harm her brother inside Storm Castle. She urges Jin to to tell her, but he can't since he doesn't even know. But he reassures her that he is fine, and thanks Luna for letting him know that not all of his siblings are after him. She brings Jin close and hugs him. She is saddened by the fact that this young boy is already involved in the power struggle. Jin is still so surprised that the famous white whale was such a tender-hearted person. She changes the conversation, and today is his birthday after all. They shouldn't be talking about such things. She actually came here to give him a gift. What gift? Jin wonders. Luna pulls out a necklace from her jacket and puts it around our boy, and tells him that if there's ever a time where the situation is more than he can handle, break the blue gem in the necklace. Wherever Jin is, Luna will come to him. Please remember to have it on you at all times. Happy birthday, Jin. Gilly is happy that our boy is finally getting some family love, and gives Luna some cake. But shortly after, she takes her leave. Jin goes back into the library, and Murakami instantly asks him who gave him that necklace. Whoever it was must really love you. Jin is further confused, but Murakami explains that that is an artifact of a demon king, Orgal. For 1,000 years, people were risking their lives to get something like this. Jin wonders if it's really that amazing, and Murakami continues. It gives the wearer resistance to magic at 5 stars and below, and enhances one's magical abilities. He also heard that it has some summoning abilities in it. Jin praises the dragon for knowing so much, but he was alive in the same period it was made, so it's only natural. Jin tells the dragon that his elder sister came here to visit, but he already sensed her energy, and by that logic, she probably sensed Murakami's as well. Jin can only hope that Luna will keep his secret, and hands Murakami some cake. The dragon shakes it off, saying that anyone who would give him a necklace like this most likely means that they are on his side, and Jin can trust her. Murakami is loving the cake, and we switch to Luna leaving the castle. She vows to always be on Jin's side, and will pretend not to know what he's up to. Bonus points for Big Sis. It seems Jin's time in Storm Castle wasn't a waste after all. He gained his father's approval, a phoenix heart, and a good connection with Luna. And to top it all, met the guardian dragon Murakami. Some time passes and now Jin is 10 years old, and it's about time that he leaves Storm Castle. Jin is seen training hand-to-hand combat with Khan, and as he's training our hero and exchanging a few blows, he can tell why the patriarch is so interested in him. In all his years of training, he has never felt the way he is right now. It feels like he's the one being examined rather than doing the examining. He bows towards Jin and thanks him and tells him that it's been an honor training him. But now, there isn't much to learn at Storm Castle, but he'll try his best in the coming sessions up until the moment that Jin leaves. Some time passes and Jin is putting his finger over a candle, testing his fire resistance. It seems that the Phoenix Heart is taking effect. He notes that the fire just feels like warm water. Gilly is happy that Mary's gift has been put to good use, and it's also her first time seeing what a Phoenix Heart can do. Jin notes that at this stage he's absorbed at least half of the Phoenix Heart, so in a couple years he'll be able to utilize its full power. Gilly prepares Jin's things for his departure and picks up 2 books asking where to pack them. She says as a final gift she will prepare some strawberry pie, and this makes Jin remember something. It seems like he forgot about Murakami for a sec. He goes down to the library to find him, and Jin wonders how Murakami will still accompany him after he has left Storm Castle. Murakami just scoffs at this, saying that he is a legendary black dragon. It's gonna work out. No matter how weakened he has become, he can follow Jin pretty easily. It shouldn't be a problem. This is the first time Jin has heard that Murakami is actually weakened, but he continues on saying that how could he be 100% after sleeping for 1,000 years? Murakami will get stronger as Jin does, since he is his guardian dragon after all. So go ahead and become a strong magical swordsman. Magical swordsman? Jin remembers that Solderet once told him that the Rune Candle family was once comprised of magical swordsmen, and the first patriarch being the strongest of them all. But there was a reason why the family decided to abandon magic. It was an event from 1,000 years ago. Murakami ponders if he even needs to hide. If he just shows up as the guardian, maybe Jin's popularity will grow. But surely the story of Murakami is too old for people to get behind 100%, so he's just gonna have to hide well. Jin asks the dragon what about the test tube he was found in. Someone is gonna be curious if he's not there, but Murakami had a plan for that as well. He's gonna use some draconic magic to make a duplicate to sit inside the tube. Jin keeps the questions going, and what if the duplicate is found out? But all of these questions seem to just anger Murakami. He is the shadow dragon, it's best not to underestimate him. But he is not at full strength, so holding a duplicate will be difficult over a long time. So he's gonna try his best to keep it still until Jin gets older. Jin thanks him for his effort and presents him a special present. Gilly's strawberry pie with a bottle of wine that he stole. Murakami is so excited for his gift and thanks Jin, but Jin just warns him not to get too drunk and make a weird duplicate. Murakami wants to find out the mastermind behind the cake and wants to meet Gilly himself, but Jin isn't too fond of that idea. The scene shifts. Gilly is buttoning Jin's coat and giving him some advice from here on out. His life is going to get harder, and she wishes him the best of luck, and she will always be here if he needs anything. 2 nights Jerome and Holtz will serve as escorts to the young lord, and in the year 1790 on October 30th, Jin left Storm Castle and is headed to the main house, the Garden of Swords. During the journey, Jin notices that the snow is building up fast. That's going to have to cause the group to wait it out in a nearby village. And all of a sudden, a clash of blades is heard. It's an ambush. Gilly quickly grabs Jin, telling the boy not to worry. But I think Jin is like 3 times stronger than you, Gilly, but I do love the mom vibes. Jerome and Holtz are 7-star knights, and they're surrounded by around 20 warriors and magicians. Gilly assures him that no one among the forces seems to be 7 stars, but Jin gets a realization. Not a single knight of Runecandle would ever leave a child's side. Something is off. He tells Gilly that they need to leave the carriage now, since neither of them are by his side. It either means they are fakes or traitors. Something might be wrong with the carriage as well. Gilly bites her lip, and as a servant of Runecandle, she vows to protect them, and pulls out some Wolverine-type claws. And I immediately am going to take back what I said. Jin might not be stronger, holy shit. With a quick flurry, she breaks out of the carriage with Jin in her arms, and tries to evade the pursuers. She worries that she will be punished for this turn of events, but Jin tells her that this is not the time to be worrying about stuff like that, and instructs her to go towards the 2 knights. There's something he needs to check. The ones attacking could be their allies. If the ambushers were aiming for him, then as soon as he left the carriage, it would have been their top priority to kill him. Yet no one is giving chase. We shift back to the scene, and a red-haired man is ordering his men to look for the young master, and it's just as Jin thought. Gilly recognizes the emblem of the Black Beast. It's the Yuta clan, a group of mages from Middle, and the Black King mercenaries. They are allies of Runecandle. They find Jin and Gilly, and the red-haired man introduces himself as the vice captain of the 3rd Corps of the Black King mercenaries. Their mission is to rescue Jin. The 2 knights from before are enraged seeing Jin with a quote-unquote enemy, but it seems they were fakes all along. No 7-star knights would struggle with this competition. Gilly demands to know who these men are, but Jerome smiles. He would never tell a Runecandle dog anything. She asks Jin on what they should do, and he calmly orders her to kill one and remove the arm of another, and bring the survivor to him. And like a mad animal, Gilly rushes in with death looming in her eyes. She slices up Jerome with ease and hones in on the remaining fake knight, and with a quick slash, she removes one of his arms. Then, she slices at his chest, giving him a big wound. He tries to retaliate, but is no match for Gilly, and is stomped on the chest, knocking him out. She drags him by the hair to Jin and informs the man to become a nanny of the Runecandles, you need to be at least a 7-star martial artist. And I definitely take back what I said. Gilly is a beast for real, what the hell? Jin notes that they seriously wanted to assassinate him. They should have brought at least 3 to 4 8-star knights. The man lashes out saying that this is just a warning. The era of Runecandles is coming to an end. Jin actually says that he would like that too, the end of the Runecandle era, and the beginning of the Jin Runecandle era. And that's some savage ass shit. Even the vice captain is taken aback by these words. The man with his last breath yells glory to the great Zipfel. Zipfel? This is the clan of magicians that rules over the other half of the world that directly opposes the Runecandle family. We now get some backstory on the event that led to the Runecandle family banning magic. In that event 1,000 years ago, when the first patriarch died, the Zipfels forced a covenant that forbid the Runecandles from using magic, and due to this, all the Runecandles had their magical abilities sealed. The Zipfels are their mortal enemies, and Jin was wondering who would be this bold, but everything begins to make sense. Jin just tells Gilly to get rid of him somewhere nearby. He isn't even worth questioning. Jin keeps pondering on the situation while the knight is screaming to be killed already. It's only natural for the clan's mortal enemy to try something like this, but it doesn't align with their normal actions. It might be a separate group of extremists, but it also isn't easy to fool a 7-star master like Gilly either. Jin thinks from his past life, an individual comes to mind that we are not yet introduced to. Gilly returns to Jin after completing her task, and Jin calmly thanks her. He calls to the vice captain and thanks him as well for the distraction. If not for him, who knows what could have happened. He will make sure to tell the patriarch of his deed and make sure that he's compensated. The vice captain is taken aback by the sheer poise of this 10-year-old boy, who, by the way, is his first time leaving Storm Castle. How is he so calm in this hectic situation? And the words he spoke earlier don't seem to be just for show. He breaks a sweat and tells his men to be on guard duty until they reach the gate, and even tells them not to curse in front of the young lord. The soldiers are very confused on the order, but I guess they didn't see the murderous 10-year-old just now. Gilly signals a group to leave, and the vice captain questions if it's truly alright to leave the fake's bodies there. Jin says that it will make a good example for those who want to follow. Gilly informs Jin that the next village is about a 2 to 3 hour walk, and Jin adds that he did not think the situation was her fault, even noting that Khan, a 9-star knight, was also fooled. But even after these words, Gilly still apologizes, and Jin just thinks to himself that she will never change. A rune candle nanny shares the fate of the child that she's in charge of. In Jin's past life, because he was looked down upon, Gilly was also looked down upon, but she never took her anger out on Jin, not even once. And even to the day he was exiled, she was still by his side, and even apologized then that she couldn't serve him properly. Jin doesn't want her to have the same attitude and constantly bow her head down. He wants her to toughen up. As she is apologizing, ready to accept any punishment, Jin yells at her that it wasn't her fault, and this is in order to get over it. She is the only guardian he has right now, and if she continues to get caught up on this matter, she cannot focus on the tasks ahead. Don't make me say it again, Jin says scoldingly. She agrees and thinks to herself how much the young master really cares for her. She doesn't want to cause him any more trouble. She gets a gust of determination and is ready to do her best. The group arrives at an inn in the next village, and as the vice captain is checking them in, Jin starts to think on the situation. He dives deeper into the man that he thinks is involved. The Transformer, Balvard Gaston. Transformation is a dragon's skill, but not all of them can transform perfectly. But Bovard has mastered this skill, and in Jin's past life, he has committed many crimes using this skill, bringing unrest into the world. If he's really involved, then the situation will become very bothersome. But for now, Jin can't notice anything too out of the ordinary. In his past life, he also recalls that he got arrested by the time he was 20, so he has about 10 years to make him an ally if he really wants to. But he wonders if he should, since he's currently pointing his blade at him. He needs to investigate the matter further before taking any actions. But after such a long day, Jin seems to be quite tired, and he ends up falling asleep on the bed. Gilly smiles and goes to continue her duties. Some time passes, and as Jin is waking up from his nap, he notices a strange cat making noises outside the window, who gets startled once he is noticed. Jin is lost for words and thinks that this can't be who he thinks it is. He recalls Murakan's words that he will disguise himself and follow closely. He yells at the black dragon for his horrible skills, which he apologizes for, and Jin wonders why he turned into a cat of all things. The two start arguing, and Murakan trips over a floorboard and smacks his head on a wall. Yeah, legendary dragon, alright. Gilly hears the commotion and goes to see what's going on. She sees Murakan grabbing his head from the steep fall and assumes he's after the young lord and prepares her murderous claws to kill him. She goes on top of him, ready to interrogate him, but Jin intervenes. But before he can say anything, Murakan remembers her name, Gilly. This is his strawberry princess who has made him all of those delicious cakes. He grabs her hand and tries to raise her up, but she's just hella confused. Jin just sighs in disbelief at the current situation. Jin formally introduces Murakan as the guardian black dragon, and Gilly, after learning his identity, immediately changes her tone. But Murakan is still in love with his strawberry princess. Gilly bows, and as a loyal servant, she didn't mean any disrespect to the guardian, but Murakan gladly forgives her. She still questions why she's being called by that weird nickname, but Murakan tells her that she's the mastermind behind all those amazing pastries. She immediately understands that Jin was taking all the pies and cakes that she made down to Murakan. Jin breaks down the full situation, and Gilly is ecstatic for him as his nanny. She knew he was gifted, but to have the guardian black dragon supporting him is truly surprising. Jin tells her to keep his secret for the time being, and she agrees, but asks about the noise that she heard earlier. Was this Murakan undoing his transformation? But she was surprised to find out that this noise was from him just falling on his face, and wonders if it's really okay to trust him. Some time passes, and the group arrives at the Middle Kingdom transfer gate. Gilly thanks the vice captain for his service, and he in turn is excited to see the growth of the youngest rune candle. But he has a question for Gilly. Why would someone with great skill like her become a nanny for a young rune candle? She looks back at him, saying the reason isn't worth bringing up. Ooh, Gilly backstory? Question mark? The vice captain accepts his answer and bids farewell. Jin and Gilly approach the front desk of this transportation hub, and the man asks them for ID. She pulls out a dagger with the rune candle insignia, and the man immediately escorts them to the special seating area. This place seems to use magic to transport people to different locations. Jin and Gilly sit and talk about the situation with Murakan. Jin tells her not to worry about it too much. He will do his best to hide it, but out of the corner of his eye, he spots a golden dragon emblem, which is the marking of a member from the Zifel clan. This boy with 2 bodyguards sits down right across from Jin. He scoffs at meeting such lowlifes in a place like this, but immediately gets attracted to Murakan's cat. But the cat immediately scratches his hand. Bonus points for Murakan. He screams but doesn't let his bodyguards interfere. It is just a cat after all. because it wouldn't be wise to pull out a sword in front of a rune candle. Jin just sits there after all these taunts, just casually reading his book, and the young boy can't help but compliment Jin's level-headedness. He stands up and properly introduces himself as Baradin Zipfels and apologizes for his earlier behavior. The name immediately resonates with Jin. This boy would grow up to be a genius mage and someone, as a fellow magician like Jin, would look up to after he was exiled. He's excited that he got to meet him as kids and tells Baradin that he's happy he's not a complete fool and he was also testing him. Baradin has a nervous sweat and asks on what he means. But Jin elaborates that if his guards did pull their swords, he might have been wandering around this place without any escorts, and maybe lost a finger or two. Baradin nervously just tries to laugh this off, but Jin just gives him a cold stare, telling the boy that he isn't joking. Baradin is shook but offers a piece of advice, and tells him not to do this to another member of the Zipfel clan. It might cause some unwanted trouble. And Jin just asks the boy if he really thinks their fathers would move around their armies just because of two kids fighting. Baradin thinks on this a bit and agrees with Jin. It would probably just end with compensation of some sort. He thanks him since it taught him something new, and tells Jin he will pay him for that later. Jin, however, is not interested in being paid later and wants to be paid right now. Baradin is excited to hear what this boy could truly want, but is literally turned to stone when Jin just says as payment, just shut up for the rest of the trip. Baradin thinks to himself that Jin will be an interesting man in a few years, and if it wasn't for their clans, he wanted him to be his friend, but gets even more interested in the idea that Jin could be his eternal rival, which makes one of his bodyguards cringe. Jin wonders why he's acting like this after being threatened. Something must be wrong with the Zipfels. The transportation gate arrives and some mysterious blue energy flows from the ceiling before the two vanish. Baradin tells Jin that they should meet again, but Jin just tries to keep his Sasuke personality. Jin is teleported and a butler, Pedro, was awaiting his arrival. And just like that, our protagonist arrives at the Garden of Swords. We get a little bit more knowledge of this place from the story, and apparently only the people with great achievements that contributed to the rune candle name are allowed the opportunity to put their swords on display in this garden. It was once Jin's wish to have his sword put here when he died, but that was when he was weak. He wasn't as perceptive or cunning, and thought he could get his dreams just by working hard. But this time, he won't make the same mistakes living in this hellhole. Jin up to Siren and his mother, the Black Panther, rolls a rune candle. She greets her child and Murakhan is intently staring at her, which catches Siren's attention. I don't think he's doing a good job at hiding. Siren asks where he found the cat, and Jin says he adopted him. Siren likes the choice of wording in Jin's answer and asks the name of this pet. Jin comes up with one on the fly and says, Nabi. This immediately gets the rage of one of his elder siblings. How dare Jin use a rune candle name on a mere cat? And they even curse his nanny for raising him this way. And hold on, I'm not gonna take no Gilly slander, they gotta take that shit back. Siren tells everyone to chill out and asks Jin why he would give his cat this name. Jin gets all philosophical and says it might just be an animal, but this is the first life that he has adopted. He wanted a name that bared a heavy weight. Siren likes to answer, but asks Jin if he knows the consequences of the name he has chosen. Jin says that he does, and if something ever happens to this cat, he will need to pay the price. Siren laughs and says Jin sure has a talent for making enemies. Look at how your siblings are staring at you. But Jin just says the coldest shit I have ever seen and says he also has a talent for killing his enemies. Whoa, 10-year-old by the way. Siren wears a wide grin and tells everyone to be prepared to handle the youngest rune candle. We time skip to about 4 years later and Jin is now 14 years old and a 2-star knight. His mentor finishes the training and thanks him for the hard work. Jin is confused on why they're only doing morning training, but the mentor continues that today, Lady Luna is scheduled to train with him. His mentor is introduced as Garon, and Jin finally remembers that Luna's training was scheduled for today and goes to eat before meeting her. Garon asks if today, finally, he will eat with his siblings, but Jin isn't interested in his fake family and would rather eat alone. Another student sits beside him named Belop Schmitz and hands the young master some food. Jin thanks him and thinks to himself that soon Belop will be robbed of his right to be a cadet and expelled from the academy. He is just a 13-year-old commoner and regularly chats with Jin, although he is the only one that seems to be talking. Jin tells him that he said the same things he was talking about yesterday and tells the boy that people look down on him because he rambles on all the time. Belop is taken aback and Jin tells him to stand up straight and have some backbone. Take pride that you are a guardian knight cadet in Rune Candle. Belop gets discouraged since his grades are the lowest and he isn't even a 1-star yet. But Jin tells him if he compares himself to other 13-year-olds, he will be considered elite. But Jin just thinks to himself again that no wonder he was kicked out in his past life. He's way too agreeable. But how did this softie go to the Hiren clan, another sword master's guild, and become the Empire's loyal hound, and walking the path of a mass murderer? After hearing Belop was part of the Imperial Guard, he was shocked in his past life, but also saddened to hear that he ended up committing suicide. He cannot leave Belop to this fate. Jin offers him some of his food, saying that he's eaten enough, and Belop is ecstatic and happily gulps down the extra food. Jin relates to the boy living an unfortunate life, saying that only once is enough. He's gonna help Belop this time around. The scene shifts to Jin roaming the hallways, noting that his spiritual energy is at 2 stars, his mana is at 4 stars, and his swordsmanship is at 2 stars. Things are going well, and in 2 years he can bump his swordsmanship up to 3 stars. But before he can think about anything else, he arrives at Luna's training session. Oh yes, Big Sis is back. She says that the training will be the same as last time and tells him that even though it's the same, he needs to tackle it differently. Use your mind's eye. Jin doesn't seem to understand this training and wants to figure out a way to get out of this regimen. Jin continues the training on trying to grasp how to use one's mind eye, but Luna tells him that this is the most important trait for wielding a blade and tells him to open his eyes. Jin thinks to himself that this skill is at the stage of enlightenment for 7-star knights and higher, and she's already trying to teach him it as a 2-star knight. The part that is holding Jin up is the fact that the mind's eye looks a lot like scattering aura, but Luna doesn't use aura in this training, so he can't grasp it completely. He tightens his grip and puts some faith in Luna's training. There might be one day where he comes to understand it all. Luna tells him that the training for today is done and he can go back. And even though Jin thinks he isn't making any progress, Luna notes that he's doing far better than she ever expected. Jin has unparalleled focus and posture that is not seen in 2-star knights. In a couple years, he will grow to master this technique. Jin is now seen in a group exercise with Belop and some other cadets. Garan is leading the kids and tells them that today's spar will be racking up points, and the more points someone can get will be a fast track for them to become a guardian knight. He looks towards Jin and says today is important for him as well. His mother said if he can defeat the top 10 cadets, he can move up to the intermediate classes next year. Jin is happy with this news, but just looks towards Belop, who is visibly nervous. Jin just sighs, saying that he's gonna make sure he's not exiled, but the boy does need to show some confidence. Garan signals for the start of the sparring exercise and tells the group that the 10 best among them will challenge Jin. Training begins and Jin looks over at them. None of them are half bad. They aren't cadets for nothing. We shift towards the end of the training and Garan selects the 10 best. Jin quickly dispatches the first combatant and thinks the record for this is 8 combatants in a row, so adding 2 more shouldn't be an issue. He also notes that the one he should look out for most is Misa Milkana, who is also elite and is recognized from his past life. The spar with her will be the most important one for today. They smile at each other, ready to engage, and Misa leaps at Jin with the overhead slash, which is blocked. Jin notes that she has gotten stronger, but is still manageable. The only issue is he needs to fight 8 more people. If that's the case, he needs to end this quickly. He fires a barrage of strikes that takes Misa off guard. This isn't a normal combination that Jin usually uses, and he's using a barrage of simple strikes rather than complex combinations. Misa feels insulted by this and feels that she's being looked down upon. She just yells back at Jin, saying if that's how he wants to play, and starts swinging back. She wants to surpass the young master and prepares another overhead strike, but this was all Jin's plan. He baited her in, and in a quick motion he breaks her sword. He thanks her for the great fight, and notes that his own sword doesn't seem to be usable anymore. She finally understands that all of those blows they exchanged, Jin was hitting the exact same spot, and she only lost because she lacked accuracy. She's a little demoralized, but vows to get stronger. Jin thinks to himself as he's fighting the other cadets that usually fighting 10 would be quite challenging, but after that display with Mesa, they all are coming into the fight with less morale. Jin quickly dispatches all 10 combatants, and Garan congratulates him on the achievement, and tells him lunch is in 10 minutes. But before this, Jin tells Garan he has one more person to spar, and calls out to Belop. Belop is shocked and nervously shaking, but Jin tells his ass to get up here. He won't survive in Rune Candle acting like this. Come up and fight me. Belop approaches, but is wondering why the young master wants to fight him. Is it because he's weak, or is he trying to help his confidence? Jin tells Belop that he's quite tired after fighting 10 cadets, but that doesn't matter. I'm still stronger than you. That's why I wanted to fight. He charges in with reckless abandon and strikes at Belop, which he barely manages to block. Belop is trying to understand what is going on, but Jin lets off a flurry of strikes and tells Belop that he's blocking well. Belop sends Jin back, and Jin flings some debris into his eyes and quickly goes for a leg sweep. Belop is hopelessly defeated and whimpers in front of Jin, asking him why he is doing this. Jin asks Belop if he thinks this is really just a duel. He asks to fight him. In this moment, he could have killed him, and tells the boy to get back up. He's only going to show him mercy once. Belop wipes away his tears and a mysterious energy fills around his weapon. Everyone is shocked to see that Belop is using aura. Misa tells the instructor to stop the duel. Jin might be in danger, but Jin stops everyone and tells them to keep whatever they see here today a secret. Belop asks if this is what he really wanted, and Jin tells the boy not to hold back. Belop grits his teeth and yells at Jin, telling him if he wanted to fight him, he should have did it before fighting 10 people, and lunges at him. The strike is heavy, and Jin's sword breaks. Jin is even surprised because he didn't expect Belop to be at this level. He always knew he was skilled, and in every other duel that he's had, he's analyzed his opponents and made sure to lose by a small margin. But to think he could already use aura is incredible. Belop rushes back in for another strike towards Jin's broken sword, but Jin applies a little bit of that spiritual energy and meets the slash. This overpowers Belop and leaves his hands shaking from the strike. Jin uses the opportunity to get behind the boy and put him in a chokehold. Belop taps and asks Jin why he stopped. He thought this was a real fight. Does Jin just like to toy with people? He declines and tells Belop it hurts him to antagonize him this way, which makes Belop even more confused. Then why did he put him through all of this? He tightens his grip and asks why he's being tortured like this. Jin grabs Belop's sword and tells him he is weaker than him, but kinder. And when he shows that kindness, he is strong. But he can't survive here just being nice. Belop, I wish that you become strong enough to protect that kind heart, and apologizes to him for being harsh. Everyone is touched by this display, and the maids arrive with the food. Belop wipes away his teary eyes and tells Jin that he should get his food, but Jin just invites him to come eat with him again in this touching moment. Is anyone else crying right now? Is it just me? The next panel takes us to a mysterious cave surrounded by weird beasts, and Khan informs the patriarch about Jin's actions. And hold up a second, why are you just chilling in this evil ass place? What is wrong with you? Anyways, Siren just laughs it off, and it seems his interest in Jin just keeps growing. He mentioned that walking the path of a dominator, Jin will still look after the weak, but time will tell if that creed has any worth, and tells Khan to give Jin his first mission. The next panel shows that on January 1795, Jin was recognized as a 3-star knight around 15 years of age. And around this time, some cadets would go home for break, while others train even harder. And once you get into the intermediate class, you can use real swords instead of wooden ones. So a few students order their personal swords. Jin also has to find a suitable sword in the clan's armory. He's sitting beside Lady Luna and she tells him to leave the sword picking to her. But that was a month ago, and Jin is a little worried. But she soon appears with this bleach-looking monstrosity and tells Jin that she invented this axe sword when she was his age. But Jin doesn't seem to be feeling it at all, and Luna gets a little sad and pretends that it was just a joke. But Jin sees right through it. She sighs and goes to show him a different sword. She has thought long and hard, and only one sword is for Jin. Since he picked the Barasada at the selection ritual, this one might be the best fit, and hands him a sword that even gets his attention. It's the brother sword to the Barasada that the first patriarch used, the Bradamante. Jin is impressed and so excited at his new sword. This is something that he would do anything to obtain. To think Luna would pick it for him. The Bradamante and Barasada are swords with the most affinity to spiritual energy. If he picked it himself, he would have a problem with the other family members who also want this sword. But for Luna to pick it for him means a lot. He doesn't know how to repay her, but Luna says it won't be necessary, but feels Jin is uneasy around her, and that makes her sad. Hey man, tell your big sis you love her. Hell. Jin says that that's not the case, but Luna says he already caused her sadness and he'll have to mend her big sister's heart. She tells him to close his eyes and start the training. Jin already knows what she will say, but Luna grabs his shoulder and tells him to engrave this into his heart. While his other siblings constantly fight to crush each other, remember that you do have siblings that love you. Please, don't make your big sister sad. And Jin quickly apologizes. She only wants him not to be lonely, like she felt growing up, and urges him to get back to training. After it's done, Jin quickly rushes back into his room to show Murakhan his new sword. But without even looking, the dragon tells him to put it back because he still lacks the spiritual energy to control it. Jin needs to be at least 3 stars in spiritual energy to use it, which frustrates him since he feels so close to breaking this 2-star barrier. As Jin is rambling on, Murakhan gets enraged at the boy's cocky attitude. These are not swords that anyone can use. 3 stars is just the minimum. Just use it as a regular sword until you're at least 5 stars. Jin isn't pleased with this since he isn't patient and asks Murakhan what if he becomes 5 stars by the end of the year. This further enrages him and he grabs Jin by the head, telling him that that's impossible. He's only saying these things because he cares about Jin. But suddenly, Jin snatches the book that Murakhan was reading, but Gilly interrupts the two and tells Jin that Garon is looking for him. Usually he would come in person, but he sent Gilly saying that it's urgent, and Jin needs to come to meet him. The instructor assigned Jin to his first mission, and he will leave as soon as the break is over. Jin thinks that this is around the time he should expect this since he is a 3-star swordsman after all. He tells the two to wait for him patiently and he'll be right back. He heads into the room with the other cadets and Garon welcomes him. This mission has been assigned to Jin and the 9 beginner cadets. They will be split into 2 groups, and it's noted that it's a scouting mission around the southern border of the Zan Kingdom. The marked area is close to the territory of the White Wolf tribe. Jin thinks that this isn't a place to send beginner cadets. Something seems off, and on top of everything, it's been assigned much sooner than usual. This is a difficult first mission. It's almost like the patriarch did this on purpose, but Jin has a glare of determination. He will show his father what he's made of. His creed will never waver. 4 days later, the group arrives, and the main goal of this mission is to look for the heir to the San Kingdom's Bill clan, Sember Bill. Once the group arrives, they will set up camp and split into teams to commence a search. And once a day, each team will send 1 man back to give a status report. Those are the orders Jin gave at the start of the mission, and Jin is seen conversing with Belop on the wildlife that they encountered. And Jin orders the cadet to go towards the 13th zone. He then orders the rest of the cadets present to go as well, and thinks to himself that something has to be off. This mission is going too smoothly. Is Jin missing something? The local beastmen mistake the group for beggars and offer them some fish. And look at these cute guys. Jin accepts and vows to return the favor. As Jin is pondering his next move, Belop returns with some news. The second squad was ambushed. Jin asks for details, but the squad dispersed and retreated. They were targeted by humans, roughly 3. Jin analyzes the situation, and there might be more than just 3 combatants. He calls for Eddington and David and tells them to go look for the enemy and to report back, but to not engage. Jin rushes to the site of the ambush, trying to make sense of what's going on. Why would they attack the 2nd division instead of the 1st, where Jin is located? Whoever it is, Jin will make them pay. They arrive at some human footprints with a blood trail, and Belop assumes that the 2nd division is dead. But Jin tells them not to get too hasty. There's no sign of corpses or flesh. Looking at the footsteps, Jin concludes that it's only one ambusher. One of his cadets signals him that she found some used bandages. Jin puts the pieces together, and the 2nd division stopped here to check wounds, but immediately came aware of a second ambush, and fled in a different direction. Jin sends 2 of his cadets back and calls Belop to come with him. They approach some members of the 2nd division fighting some strange soldiers. Jin hides behind a tree looking over the battle. He signals Belop to strike on his command, and prepares a dagger with spiritual energy. Doing this increases the offensive power of his dagger, and he launches one into the neck of one of the soldiers, and Belop dashes on top of the other, slicing his back. He asks if his men are alright, and they said the enemy has taken Misa. He orders them to retreat and recover, and the man on the floor is still alive and begging for his life. Jin thinks that he's somewhat sane. It's unlikely that they are related to Zipfel. He gives this man 2 choices. Give me all the details of this ambush, and only one of your men will die here today. Keep your mouth shut, and all of your comrades will die, Jin says with a menacing look. He swears the truth of his words on his clan's name. The man yields, not being able to do much else, and tells Jin that he's part of the Revolutionary Army, known as Kinslow. Jin immediately recalls his past life. This was a terrorist organization that was still active up until his death. The story of them in that time was this group killed Zan's emperor and became known as pillagers and murderers. In their name, they claim that they're revolutionary, but their interpretation of it is quite extreme. Jin asks the man why he attacked Rune Candle cadets, but he responds saying that he's too low ranked to know. But he doesn't have info on the main camp, but the camp he is stationed at isn't far, and there is about 20 4-star knights and magicians. Jin asks one more question. Why did they take Mesa? The man says his orders were to capture all female cadets. This was needed for their declaration of revolution. After hearing these words, Jin is enraged and kills the man. He asks how long ago Misa was captured. Jin will go further, but tells his other cadets to go back and recover, and send word to the main house. The cadets try and plead with Jin that this is too dangerous. How can he possibly handle 20 4-star knights and magicians? Jin agrees that it isn't ideal, but a son of Rune Candle cannot sit idly by in this situation, and tells the group that he will not take no for an answer, and puts Belop in charge. He rushes into the forest, hoping to save his friend. Jin has been running for hours, thinking on the situation. How can he deal with the enemy numbers? Even though he's a 3-star swordsman, 4-star mana, and 3-star spiritual energy, and he has been growing fast. But it still isn't feasible for Jin to take out 20 of them at once. Rescuing Misa is his only objective. He needs to fight as little as possible. He prepares a spell, Seismic Sense, and dual casts When Pursuit. The combination of these 2 spells highlights a path for Jin to take that follows the enemy movements. As he is dashing in, he is ambushed and a couple spears are hurled at him. 2 men jump out of the woodwork, but since no one is around, Jin can start using his magic. This catches the men off guard, and the mage in the back prepares a fire spell and yells for his men to step back. But Jin throws a spell of his own to nullify its activation. The mage switches to an ice spell, but Jin rushes in. His necklace activates, nullifying this spell as well, and he swiftly kills the mage. He deals with the ambushers and curses these bastards who took Mesa. They're looking down on the cadets, not even trying to hide their tracks. The Kinslow organization has a clear chain of command, so it's likely all the things that they plunder are distributed by ranks, and the low-ranked soldiers wouldn't dare touch things that are requested from the higher-ups. So Jin has one chance to save his friend. He's nearing the camp and will need a distraction, so he prepares a fire spell in his hand and sets the forest ablaze, then prepares another magic circle pointing towards the sky. The men at the camp see a large wildfire and immediately run to try to put it out, but they fell for the trap. The leader of the group curses his useless soldiers, and Jin notices that this must be their leader, and he's the only smart one among them because he recognizes that this is a trap. But before he can tell his bozo soldiers, Jin stands menacingly behind him. He dispatches the leader and finds a key on his corpse. He goes into the main building and through a basement entrance finds Mesa. As soon as he unties her, however, some noise is heard in the building. Mesa tells him if the situation becomes too dire, please, Jin, save yourself. But Jin doesn't want to hear any of this. They exit the building and they see enemy soldiers dead on the floor with claw marks around their bodies. This must be the work of the beastmen of the White Wolf tribe, and we get a close-up of an absolutely terrifying wolf soldier. Mesa tries to buy them some time, but Jin whacks her on the head, knocking her out. The Wolfman curses the useless humans who can't even put out a fire and asks if Jin was the one who did this. He says that he did and he is the son of Siren and asks the name of the Wolfman, but the beast just smiles after hearing the name Rune Candle. Before we get into the fight, we see a flashback to a few days before, watching some of Jin's independent training with spiritual energy. As he's gathering the energy around his sword, Murakhan appears out of nowhere and dropkicks Jin, asking what the hell he thinks he's doing. Does he want to die? Why is he not following his directions? He told Jin not to activate the sword. It's still too early. Ooh, a little foreshadowing here. The first boss battle, eh? I'm excited. The Wolfman is also excited for his prey to be an offspring of Rune Candle and introduces himself as Quasito Turka, a warrior of the White Wolf tribe. This tribe is said to be bred for battle and slaughter. An average adult wolf's power is about 6 stars. They are famous for hating the Rune Candles because the first patriarch killed the great White Wolf, Javier, who is worshipped as a god. Jin knows it's impossible to run now. He has to confront this beast. The Wolfman yells powerfully and wants to offer Jin's corpse as a tribute to Javier. He asks Jin if he will fight honorably or die while running. Jin coats his sword with a white essence and vows to fight with honor. The beast lunges in, hammer in hand, and hits the ground with an intense force, leaving a crater behind. Jin steps back, but the wolf is hot on his trail, preparing another swing that Jin is not ready for. He barely blocks the strike with his sword and parries the strike back. He thinks to himself that he has a lot of tricks that he can use that aren't typical to Rune Candles. The pendant, magic, and his spiritual energy. He thinks the pendant is too valuable to use in a situation like this. If he can't deal with this 6-star wolf, he is not worthy to achieve his ambitions. Also, his 4-star magic won't be strong enough to pierce the wolf's skin, and if people come to investigate, they're gonna see signs of magic. This only leaves one option: spiritual energy. Jin blocks another heavy blow from the wolf and thinks to himself that the only way he can win is to activate his sword. The wolf admires the Rune Candle sword, but it doesn't quite match the black sword symbol, but it's sturdier than it looks. The wolf sends another overhead smash at Jin, and Jin tries to put all of his power into activating his sword. He's had a taste of it before, but just as the wolf is coming down on him, ready to end his life, a darkness fills the area, robbing the vision from the wolf he is unable to see. And in this moment of hesitation, Jin vertically slashes his opponent. Up until now, Jin never knew why his clan's emblem is black, but now his sword is enveloped in spiritual energy, which has in turn turned it black, so he finally understands. The Wolfman falls to his knees, defeated, still not grasping what just happened. Jin can't stand up straight after such an intense fight, but all of a sudden, the backlash from the power erupts in his body, causing him immense pain. All of the negative emotions he's felt from his past life flood into his mind. An image of Murakhan appears in front of him, saying that he tried to warn him. If a brat like you awakens the sword without enough spiritual energy, you will suffer from spiritual energy congestion. He tells Jin to wake up and he better not lose his mind now. He has more things to accomplish. Jin collects himself and casts spiritual energy release, creating a small circle around him. It's hard to breathe, but he needs to focus, and he calms his nerves. He begins to draw in all the surrounding shadows, and he succeeded. He gasps for air, wondering how he made it out of that. So this is what Murakami was talking about. He feels off like his body is overflowing with spiritual energy. He begins to stand up and there isn't any more problems, so he should take Mesa and go. But notices another person hiding behind the rubble, asking to be spared. Jin asks him if he's part of the Kinslow group, but this is actually the person that Jin was sent to look for, Bill, from the Zan Kingdom. This is just textbook MC timing, I swear. Jin explains the situation and the man is relieved that he's finally being saved. And this whole time, Jin totally forgot about the guy. What the hell? This man will never forget Jin's kindness for saving him. If Mesa wasn't kidnapped, he would have never found you, bro, but he doesn't need to know that. Jin asks how the man was kidnapped in the first place, and he said he followed his dead lover, who died 2 years ago. But for some reason, he saw her as if she was still here, and even heard the sound of her voice. Jin is concerned by this news, and it was probably the work of the Gaston fellow that we were introduced to some chapters before, and his transformation abilities. Sember was probably kidnapped for money, but what is the connection here? This is the second time Jin has run into this man since he left Storm Castle. Something is not right, and he needs to get to the bottom of this, and see what kind of person Gaston really is. Sember thanks Jin for listening to his sad tale, but Jin is only thinking to himself on how he will beat the Transformer. Sember is crying since he finds out Jin actually called the reinforcements for him, and he will forever remember this meeting, and if Jin needs anything, please let him know. Some time passes and Jin returns to the Garden of Swords. He greets Gilly, who is ecstatic that he did so well on his first mission, but out of the corner of his eye, he spots Murakan's dark expression in his cat form. He knows he didn't listen to his words yet again, and the cat Murakan bites his hand, causing Jin to launch him into a nearby window. Jin asks what the hell that was for, but Murakan told him repeatedly not to use shadow energy release. How many times does he have to tell him? He transforms into his base form and starts swinging around. Murakan demands to know why Gilly forgot the strawberry pie, and Murakan wants smoke today, and also asks Jin why he risked his life instead of using the pendant, but Jin tells him that the pendant was too valuable to use in that situation. This just infuriates Murakan even more, at the fact that he risked his own life rather than using a pendant. Jin wants to know how Murakan knows he released the sword's power, and Murakan says it's obvious from the fact that he's now a 4-star spiritual energy user. Jin thinks that must be the reason he was overflowing with energy, but to think he went up a full star. Murakan explains that there was 11 people who have gone through the same shadow energy intoxication, and 9 of them have died, so Jin is among the 2 to ever survive. Jin asks if the other one is Tamar. Murakan shakes his head, saying that even he would have died from that. You see, Murakan was the only other person to survive. This takes Jin aback. Jin waves his hand, so technically, him and Murakan are the same, so he tells him not to worry about it. He doesn't want to experience that pain ever again. Murakan wants Jin to be punished, but Gilly quickly moves to prepare the young master's meal, which makes the dragon incredibly jealous. We shift to a scene of 2 people talking of Jin's accomplishments, doubting if he indeed killed a white wolf, even thinking that it was an imposter. And Rune Candle says it could be possible if the white wolf was one of the weaker members of the species. The woman she is talking to is Mew, and she still can't fathom that a 3-star knight bested a 6-star wolf. Our favorite twins, Haytona and Daytona, enter the room, and Jin killing the white wolf is believable to them since they know what kind of demon Jin really is. But this is not why they came here. Tomorrow, Jin will be joining the intermediate class, and if he does, it will be the end of the twins, as they think of an image of a devilish Jin. Anne tells the boys to be honest with their sisters. Are they really that scared of Jin? They try to deny it, but Anne gets serious and with killing intent tells them not to lie. Anne asks how, as a big sister, she can help. The sisters offer 2 of their best slaves to the twins, telling them that they will be quite useful. We shift to the intermediate class and the man goes over the rules. There are 3 to 5 star knights here, some of which are brand new, and some who have been here for 10 years. Mew and Anne would always take a few cadets out of each class and treat them like slaves. They gave the twins 2 of these slaves to put Jin in his place, but tell them that they better be successful. Jin finishes washing up, thinking about his class tomorrow. If he wants to use shadow energy properly, he needs to get to 6-star swordsmanship in the next 5 years. 6 stars means that one is a remarkable swordsman. 7 means that one's a master. And if one can reach 8 stars, they become a regularity. With over 2 billion people in the world, there isn't even 100 people who have reached 9 or 10 stars. And only one has ever surpassed 10 stars, the Genesis Knight, Siren. Jin vows that he will surpass the Genesis Knight in this life. But for now, he has some problems to deal with, especially since the Tona brothers are in his next class. And he knows from experience that his brothers will turn on each other and need to be in check. The only way for Jin to survive this class is through brute strength. He needs to dominate the intermediate class. The next panel shows Jin entering his mother's quarters, asking why she has called for him. She congratulates him for completing his mission with amazing results, but according to her reports, Jin has declined the suggestion to change rooms. She wants Jin to use the room for the future patriarch that has been empty since Joshua has used it. She wants Jin to use it now, but he refuses. It might have great importance, but at the end of the day, it's still just a room, and the implications will be a hassle. Rosa taps the desk and tells Jin that he can leave, but thinks to herself that she can't tell whether Jin has no greed or is the greediest of them all. The moment he would have accepted that room, all the swords of his siblings would have been pointed towards him, but he's still a target no matter what. He must realize that this was a test. Jin meets up with his cadets and tells them tomorrow he will leave for the intermediate class, and these cadets will be seen as Jin's faction. They might experience taunts and torments, but worry not. Jin will never let any of this slide, and those things will cease once he conquers the class. Until then, you guys must stick together in groups of 3 and refrain from going out alone. The group accepts the order and we shift to the intermediate class. The teacher is Candle, an 8-star knight, and Siren's little brother, who looks pretty sick mind you. He informs the group on the new transfers they have and the 27 people who dropped out. Except for murder, any situation or incident should be solved amongst yourselves. He yells for the seniors to tell the newbies what they always preach, and they scream, "Rune candles do not need the weak." They chant this several times, and Jin notices the tone is supposed to demoralize the new recruits. He spots the Toner brothers and notices the cadet near them that looks like a veteran. There's no way they could have recruited him themselves. He wonders if Mew and Anne are behind this. Jin knows that they want to break him as a newbie, but he has no intention of going out like that, and walks towards the Toner brothers, basically making them shit themselves. He aims a slash of his sword towards the veteran cadet, slicing his arm off, putting him on the floor in agony. He thinks to himself that the ones who should be hazed is them, not me. He tells someone to call a medic and sheathes his sword. What the hell kind of savage move was that? Daytona yells why the hell Jin just did that. Is he insane? But Jin ignores him and asks the cadet for his name, grabbing his now stump of an arm. He says Kajin Romello. Jin asks if he knows why he removed his arm. Daytona is annoyed that he's being ignored, and Jin looks towards them coldly, telling the boys not to interrupt his conversation. If they want a duel, they will have one later. Daytona yells and accidentally reveals that Kajin was one of his cadets, but immediately tries to cover his mouth, but the information is already slipped. My cadet, you say? So this man is part of your faction, big brother? The surrounding cadets realize that this is a battle between brothers, as Jin looks the two down. Zed looks over and smiles, understanding the situation. While trying to teach Jin a lesson, they instead were taught the lesson. Due to their words, Kajin has become a part of the Tona's faction, publicly. So what Jin did was not a random attack, sort of justifying his action. But instead of partaking in the battle for hegemony, he did something really bold. Jin yells for all the cadets' attention. You all may point your swords at me, or even try to ambush me. But know this, the moment you show hostility, I will not hesitate to cut you down, as I just did. Zed calls out for Jin and asks him if he thinks he can behave this way in front of him, but Jin just says he does. Zed asks how come, and Jin replies saying that he didn't just challenge the Toner brothers, but he also challenges Zed. Zed prepares his blade full of aura, interested in what Jin just said, and asks the boy to explain himself, and depending on his answer, he might have his head removed.
And that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video, but most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.